Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where you soon will be seeing our new logo as well as our new introduction. And we are thrilled to have you. We appreciate you. Thank you for the support that you've given us, and welcome to our programming for 2023. Our show today is Global Adventures, and we're going to be learning all about Antarctica from someone who has expertise in that area from visiting there. So before we welcome our guest, Moyra, we want to bring out the star of our show, the person who actually came up with the concept and the idea for Global Adventures. Let's welcome JenettaBarry, who's on her second show today, joining us from Africa. Hello, Jenetta.
Dr. Jacalyn. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a show that promises to be vastly interesting. So welcome, welcome.
Jenetta, I'm interested because you've lived and live in the UK and also in Africa. What is it about traveling or adventures that really inspires you?
I believe it's the stories behind what's happening where you're visiting. When you just go for the sights and the people and partying and whatever, you know, the normal things to relax on a holiday, that's an important part. But for me, a real part of traveling for me is either speaking to people who've been to the most fascinating places and got the backstories and got the insight on how people operate and live and why they operate and live there, and even down to their spiritual expertise and so on. I mean, at the moment, I'm talking to somebody who lives in Kenya who has traveled the Sahara with nomads and camels, riding camels with them. That is, to me, what a travel adventure is all about. So wherever I've gone, I've tried to get into the feeling of that place and the people and their stories and their backstory, and it really brings that whole thing to is about too.
Yeah, you've made some really great points. There's a big difference in going on a holiday and you're lying on the beach and maybe you're having little drinks with umbrellas or maybe you're taking a dip in the ocean, as opposed to going on tours and really seeing the sites that not everybody gets to see. That if you have a really experienced tour guide, you might get to see some things that the locals know about, but that tourists don't. Tell us a little bit about our guest, Moyra. I know you two are close friends. How did you two meet, and what will we be hearing about today from her?
Oh, so Moyra also lives in Kenya. She's in Nairobi, in very close to the game park and very close to that place called Giraffe Manor, where the giraffes put their heads through the windows and eat people's breakfast. It's a very well-renowned lodge, boutique hotel in actual fact. So she's around the corner from there. And Moyra and I have been friends for over 20 years now. And our children went to school in Nairobi, also not very far from where she lives, a school known as the Banda School. We featured it on the very first program, Global Adventures program, with my son Neil, as he showed pictures of school children playing hockey with the warthogs on the hockey pitch. And that's where both her children and my children went to school and experienced all that at their school, because that school is right next door to the Nairobi National Game Park. So that's our backstory. But Moyra and I go deeper than that. we've been there with each other and for each other through thick and thin, which is what friendship is about. And I consider Moyra to be the sister I never had. I'm an only girl. And so when we get together, it's just so exciting, and we can't get enough time to sit down and chat and catch up. And one of the most wonderful things is that Moyra's done quite exotic traveling, where she has gone off the beaten track. A few weeks ago, Moyra was with us and joined us and shared her adventures of traveling through Ethiopia. And that was absolutely, apart from such good fun, it was absolutely enchanting to see, and why, to get the backstory of Ethiopia and why there are such old churches that are kind of like 500 years came from 500 years after Christ was born. It's an amazing thing. So today she's going to share with us first the back history. Please excuse, I've got hyenas in the background. I don't know if you can hear them. They're right outside.
Not everybody mentioned that. That's pretty funny.
But they're right here. They're in agreement with us. You know, have a proper adventure. Do it properly. Anyway, so the hyenas. Moyra, we're going to bring her on. She is going to share the backstory of how she got to go to Antarctica in November of 2018. So let's get this amazingly special lady, my friend, up on the screen with us. Welcome, Karibu, Moyra.
Hi, Moyra. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Thank you, Jenetta. And hello, everybody.
Moyra, there's some kind of there's some sound coming through with your voice. I'm not sure what it is.
You sound like a hyena.
This. Yeah.
Thank you. Is that better? Maybe
Try
it's
going
my
out
Wi-Fi.
and coming back in again. If you go off and come back, yeah.
That was different. We never had that before.
It really was. It was like something out of Star Wars.
I thought we were watching something for Halloween movie or something. But
yes, the creature with 8 heads.
Moyra is still backstage. Moyra, maybe you can disconnect and then come back on.
Actually go out. Yeah, that might be an idea.
Exactly.
So, so Dr. Jacalyn, in terms of adventures, I would like to put out there, if there's anybody out there who's done something exotically different that's off the normal charts, where you go on and you book your hotel and then you're taken on a tour by bus, and if you've done something uniquely different somewhere around the world that most people don't get to do, we would love to hear from you and invite you onto this show and to become part of sharing your adventure somewhere in the world. It could be Thailand. It could be the outback of Australia. I was watching a film this week which showed me that my knowledge of Australia is really limited, and I thought I knew a lot about Australia. The most beautiful places I didn't know existed in Australia. So maybe it's there, maybe it's in deepest China where hardly anybody's gone. It could be in the middle of Africa. Maybe it's somewhere like the Okavango Delta where nobody's ever gone or hardly ever gone, or wherever it is in the world. Please do contact either Dr. Jacalyn or me, and we would love to invite you to share and be part of this amazing show, which is actually my most favorite personal show in terms of presenting on USA Global TV. So it's such fun.
Wow, I didn't know that, Jenetta. That's fabulous. Moyra's back. Let's see how she sounds now. Da-da-da, we're all ears.
Okay, how do I sound? Yes?
Fabulous.
We were saying
Oh,
you
good.
sounded like something out of Star Wars with 8 heads.
Oh, really? Or maybe like a banshee.
One of those robots where the head turns around, I think. So, but we're glad to have you back, and we're looking forward to hearing about this wonderful exploration adventure.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll just give you a little bit of the background. It's one of those places, I don't know if you've ever heard a place that is like a dream come true. And it's almost like a fantasy as far as actually being able to go there. So Antarctica was very much like that for me, having been. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
making
hear
that
you.
noise.
You're rattling. Maybe if you can take out the earbuds, maybe that'll help.
How will I hear you?
Put your earbuds away.
Okay. Is that better?
Much better. Yes.
Ah, so it's them. Okay. Well, I didn't realize I was off the. Oh, it's gone again.
No, you're
No,
here.
you're here. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm here. Okay. Did you hear what I was saying about a sort of a dream, a fantasy
Yes.
land?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, having been brought up in Kenya and never actually experiencing snow or ice except on top of Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Kenya, the idea of going to a whole continent of ice was just pure magic. It was like just like a dream, literally, like being in a dreamland, like Narnia, only all good, without a witch to frighten you. And so when I had an opportunity through some friends of mine to join the expedition in order to fill up the boat, the ship, I jumped on it. And I decided that this was going to be the dream come true. And so I flew to Buenos Aires. And
In fact,
from
Jacqueline, if we could go back and share screen now, then people can see it in visual as Moyra talks. There we go. So you went through to Buenos Aires, you were saying?
Yes. And had a few days there, and did some very interesting sightseeing. I went to the Recoleta Cemetery, which is an enormous cemetery in the middle of Buenos Aires, with streets and so many wonderful. There's just everything there, every art style you can imagine. There's even Eva Perón's grave there, and Argentinian presidents and Nobel Prize winners. And there's literally street lights and street names, and it was just extraordinary. And of course, it's a very lively, beautiful city with plenty of Argentinian tango lessons and shows, and Wonderful, wonderful streets, beautiful, beautiful buildings. So it was fascinating to be there. And then from Buenos Aires, I flew south. Oh, there's one more picture of the Recoleta Cemetery.
I think that's it. That's all I
Yes.
have.
Yes, that's fine. And then I flew to literally almost the ends of the earth. I flew to a place called Ushuaia, which is right at the base of Argentina. And from there, it's an extraordinary little town. It's like a Latino old fishing town. It's really extraordinary. Yes, lots of little places like that. Of course, now it's a big tourist hub for tourists who are going to Antarctica. So there are many outdoors outfitters and yes, and wonderful picturesque little churches, and of course the fishing boats and mountains surrounded by wonderful snow-capped mountains. Really beautiful, very different. And I spent a night in a hotel there, met the rest of the party, and we just got to know each other. We were going to be on the boat for the next 11 days. And so it was very nice to just get to know our shipmates. This is another little funny street. I think there's a little bit of Tudor in there as well. And then we boarded our boat, our ship. And her name was Ushuaia, after the town here. There she is. And she's definitely the smallest of all the sightseeing ships. She's not really a cruise ship at all. She could take 75 passengers and 30 crew. And she was built in 1970 in the US as a US spy ship. And then she was bought by somebody else, by a company who were in Argentina, and was refitted as a passenger ship. But unfortunately, comfort was never high on the agenda. So it was small. It was quite close and intimate.
So Moyra,
yes.
Did you sleep on a bunk bed, or did you have a cabin, or was it really kind of?
I shared a cabin with another friend who I met there, and yes, they were beds. They weren't bunk beds. There wasn't somebody above me. There were little beds and a tiny little grubby porthole. But it was so exciting. And the best thing about the ship was that she had wonderful, big viewing decks on all the levels. And the crew were all delightful. They were either Chilean or Argentinian. We had wonderful food throughout, and they were charming. And so the next day, we set sail down the Beagle Strait, named after Darwin's ship, the Beagle, and then into the infamous Drake Passage. And it was a place where the confluence of winds called the Furious 50s and the Screaming 60s all converged, and it was a mixture of currents and geography and forces of water, which causes notoriously rough seas. So we were braced that first night. And during dinner, the ship's doctor sent the crew round with seasickness pills, which we were all advised to take that night, before the seas became terribly rough. And we also, before that, we had our first safety drill, putting those funny life jackets on and seeing how quickly we could do it and find out where the whistle was. But anyway, that night at about predictably at 1 o'clock, the sea started to get rough. And I don't know if you've been in rough seas, but it was really rough. You know, we were being thrown from side to side on our beds. We'd been told to tuck ourselves up quite tightly with the blankets. And this went on until the morning. And there were a lot less people out there for breakfast. But it continued to be quite rough. We hadn't got to this bit that Jenetta's showing yet, because that was when we came out of the Drake Passage. In the Drake Passage, we were there heaving and yawing for about 2 days. And then on the third day, we came out into calm sea just off the Shetland Islands, which are a string of little islands just above the southern peninsula of Antarctica. But it was wonderful. During the passage, we saw the most wonderful birds. We saw albatross and petrels and Cape petrels, and it was extraordinary birds that never come to land. They're just airborne, flying over the seas all their lives. Extraordinary. A wonderful experience. And then we came out into the calm. And that was our first iceberg that we saw way, way in the distance. It's called a tabular iceberg because of the shape. It's shaped like a table. But the thrill of seeing that was just enormous. I mean, it was huge and it was floating. And we were only seeing the tip of it, the tip of the iceberg, literally. So that was terribly exciting. And we did get up closer. And this particular trip was actually for photographers. So as an artist, I had slightly different perspectives. I wasn't worrying about getting the right setting or the right setting, the right lighting. I was just painting what I saw. So I was in seventh heaven. Yes, that's just one of the paintings of the icebergs floating, and the wonderful, still slightly choppy seas, but just the glorious colors. Oh yes. And I would sit inside because it was very, very cold and windy outside and paint what went past the window. Such enjoyment. I did find another fellow artist there, so we weren't quite so outnumbered. Those little icebergs that you see in the painting are actually called, we've gone back to coming to land in Ushuaia now. I'll wait for the next one to come. Yes, those smaller floating icebergs are called growlers because of the way the water, as they're melting, there are little holes in the ice, and it makes a funny, strange growling noise as the wind goes through it and the water chops around it. So those things you can see there are growlers. Very,
Really
Wow.
beautiful, Moyra.
Wow.
Oh, the colors were just enchanting.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Now, is this available for people to purchase, or that you did it for yourself?
Both really. I just first of all did it for myself and as paint sketches to take home and work on, which I did do. I think we're just seeing the same too, Netta. Is it stuck?
No, we've moved. We've moved
you
on to
have? Oh,
penguins.
it's not coming to me. I'm sorry. All I'm seeing now is penguins.
Oh, penguins.
Sorry, I don't know whether I've been talking about the same pictures that you're seeing.
You were.
I was. Oh, good. These are. Let me just look. These are the Adelie penguins because they have a beautiful white ring around their eyes, and we saw these on Moon Island. Moon Bay, and the penguins are just pure entertainment. They really are the most adorable little things. Their waddle and those little wings and the noise they make, they're really extraordinary. We'll come
Moyra?
to yes.
I'm sorry. How many penguins are in this picture? There are four.
In that picture, there are 3 penguins. They like to nest quite high up, quite high up in relation to the ocean, just to avoid swells or any kind of cracking caused by the glacier melting. So they'll climb quite high up till they have a little altitude, and then they like to nest. So they'll lie in the snow until their little breasts melt the snow around, and then they like to line their nests with pebbles. Now, pebbles are a pretty hot commodity there, so there's a lot of fighting over who gets the pebbles, and they'll often go and steal somebody else's, and that causes a lot of they make a funny honking noise, almost like a zebra or a donkey. They're really extraordinary. So there's a lot of little fights, and then they'll sort of go down, sometimes on their bellies, or sometimes they'll waddle back down to the sea again, and then they go into the water and they wash their tummies with their little flippers, and maybe they'll go fishing, and then they'll come on up again. And there's always a lot of action, a lot of noise. And let me just check again. Yes, Jacalyn, you did ask. There's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there are 3 penguins there.
I couldn't tell if the one in the ice, if that was one or not.
I think that was a rock, wasn't it? Yeah.
Would be.
And that's huddled up painting from the deck.
It looks pretty cold, Moyra.
It was really cold. And you can't wear gloves if you're painting. You have to just bare those little digits. But it was worth every discomfort. It was wonderful.
Now, did you stay on this ship for the 11 days?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did go ashore most days. If if it was the weather was good enough to get into zodiacs, we had there were about 4 zodiacs, those inflatable boats with an outboard engine, and they would take about 6 people at a time. So we would go out in shifts, and as long as the sea stayed calm, we could go to land and we could walk around and just be with the penguins, only not too close, or just looking at the incredible landscape around there. So there was never a feeling of being cabin bound at all. I guess because you could always go out onto the viewing decks if you were prepared to feel cold for a bit.
And is that ice there?
That is ice and snow, yes, and a wonderful ray of sunshine there on the side of the hillside, on the side of the mountain. Yes, it was just, yes, when the sun shone on it, it was just totally beautiful.
It's very beautiful. Wow, look at that.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
a painting or is that a picture?
No, that's a picture. That is, I think that was when we first came out of the Drake Passage, and there was just a little bit of, that was the first view of a mountain there, one of the islands. It was gorgeous.
Is that an iceberg? What is that in the?
No, it's an island. It's
an island.
It's an island. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And the ocean looks very, very calm there. Very lovely. And in the meantime, this is a particularly beautiful passage. It's called the Le Maire Passage. And it was just that glorious evening light shining on the mountains and a strange gray black cloud there. It was just so glorious. Of course, the photographers were in heaven.
I was going to say, it was like Moyra went, wow, the universe conspired and gave me a picture to paint.
Every minute of the day. It wasn't just there. It was just, fortunately, there were so many wonderful scenes. And look at that.
Wow.
And the light changed all the time.
And Moyra, would you take any pictures with a camera and then paint them later, or you basically painted whatever you saw when you saw it?
Yeah, I did. I find it sort of loses its life when I paint from a photograph anyway. Mm-hmm. And those are 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you can see 5 of the Zodiac, the boats that have just left the ship, and they're heading out to a landing.
So when you would leave the ship and you would go in the Zodiac, you're not going anywhere that is populated. You're walking in or on nature, in nature.
Yes, absolutely. There are no civilizations there, if you like. The only people who are there are researchers. It's just so pristine. It's so and precious. And this is a British post. It's called Fort Lockroy. And when Antarctica was divided up like a big cake amongst the countries of the world, or the important ones considered in the early days, Britain had this one port. And it was defense, and it was a little bit of research, but not very much. And then they left it in, I think, 1960. And everything was just left to disintegrate and to become totally, just left to disintegrate. And they were shamed, I think in about the 70s, about 15 years later, they were shamed into rehabilitating it as a historical monument and as an important research post center. So that's now what it is. There's a lovely little museum there, and there is a lot of very important research being done on the environment, the ecology, and the weather. It's obviously a very, very important place to preserve and to study.
So are there researchers who live there full time, or is it all done? Okay, there are.
No, they live there, not full time. In the early days before the British actually left it, the men would be sent there to live in a cabin without any other women there. They were just men for 2.5 years at a time. Wow. So when we looked through the museum, there were all sorts of very interesting posters and graffiti in the room where they all bunked. So anyway, it's quite a thing to go there and to buy a postcard and a stamp, and they will post it from that fort, and it possibly get to its destination after about 2 or 3 months. So what fun would that be to get a postcard from Port Lockroy in Antarctica?
I'd love one.
Now, I wish I'd known you then. I could have sent you one. And this is our ship, the dear old tub. She's come to anchor, and she looks a little bit squiff. I'm not quite sure why. But you can see the crane there coming out of the side, and that's what the zodiacs are lowered on. And then they come round to the back of the ship that you can see facing you. And that's where we all used to clamber over the edge under the watchful eye of the crew. But some of the passengers were quite elderly and not very agile. And so it was quite scary, and 1 or 2 of them did fall in. I mean, I'm laughing, but it wasn't disastrous. It was just rather nerve-wracking, I think, for the crew, because the passengers themselves took it very well. If they fell in, they were whisked back to the boat and put in a cold shower and given a nice, strong, stimulating beverage.
Was the crew from that, what was the name of that?
Ushuaia.
Is the same crew from this ship?
Yes. They were with us. There were 30 crew. They were with us the whole way round. Which was beautiful. They were wonderful. They were really, really friendly. And the scientists there, who would give us a lecture every day on the birds, on the sea creatures, on just the history of Antarctica, it was fascinating. So it was an extraordinarily well-organized trip. And being only 75 people on board, we could go so the ship was smaller than some of the huge cruise ships that had more than 100 passengers. There were some places that they were not allowed to land, so only small ones could land there, and only, I think it's about 80 people at a time. And it's very well organized in that I never saw another ship. It was always organized that one ship would go that way, another ship would go around the other way, and then, the captains were all in contact with each other so that we would never be in each other's sight. So there was a lovely sense of being the first person there. And of course, the ice was just so beautiful. I couldn't really get enough of it. The turquoises and the blues and the shimmering depths and the shapes, just extraordinary.
Stunning.
Yes, it really was. Just
Really
colors
beautiful.
colors that are so different from Africa.
Yeah,
And
that's so true.
Yes, walking in ice and snow was a wonderful revelation. I'm sure New Yorkers wouldn't find that at all attractive at the moment.
I just want to say hello. We have somebody here. I'm not sure who it is. Hello again. Hello. Thank you for being here. I enjoyed it yesterday, so I thought I'd pop back on. We love that.
Welcome.
Welcome. Let
And
us
if you
know
could-
where you're joining from and who you are.
Yes, yeah. If you could let us know your name, that would be great. So, Moyra, is this the tall,
Yes.
dark, and handsome man?
This is, of course, the handsome captain who was always, he timed his appearances and then disappeared with such mystery. And of course, he was devastatingly handsome, and everyone sighed when they saw him.
Takes your breath away. By the way, it's Katie Stelfox, Big Boss Lady. Thank you for being with us, Katie.
Hi, Katie. Lovely to see you again. So these are just some of the people. I thought I'd put them in. I snuck these in over and above what you sent me.
I see. Okay.
So I just thought I'd show a few of the people, and then there was the songs you sang and the cake.
Oh yes, yes, there was one lady there who is 88 years old, and this lady, the one in the front with very short white hair, she was to come on a trip like that at her age, and she was just voraciously interested in everything, and she was also an extraordinary organist. And so the chef had made her an enormous chocolate cake for her birthday with a keyboard. So
that's amazing.
You could almost play it, yes. So she was delighted. I mean, what a lovely lady. She was an inspiration, and she was a brilliant photographer. So her images were just totally stunning, beautiful.
Moyra, were you able to stay in touch with any of these folks that you met?
Yes, I am. I'm in touch with her and the lady and her husband who was on before. Yes, which is wonderful. Love it.
What about the handsome captain?
Oh, no.
Elusive.
He remained elusive.
Maybe he was really just an actor.
How do they remain tall? How do they remain tall, dark, and handsome unless they remain elusive? So,
that's the story of men who go to sea. Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Moyra, we're coming to a part of Antarctica that I think just meant so much. It was a little bit of quite a sad part in Deception Island. And I've put a few bits and pieces here in the video just now. You'll get to see more of Deception Island. But would you like to explain what Deception Island is?
Well, Deception Island is a breached volcanic caldera. That means it one side of the volcano, I mean, this is many millennium ago, and until the 1950s, it had been a whaling station. And it was fascinating and a little bit depressing and sad. And the caldera's opening, the volcano's opening, was called Neptune's bellows, because it's very, very dangerous and narrow to get into. I mean, it was quite exciting when we went into, and what makes it more perilous than just being narrow is there was a sunken ship just beneath the surface. So anyway, the captain knew his stuff. Fortunately, he wasn't just good looking, he was also a very good captain. So we got in there, and there was black volcanic sand, which you can see here all around the sort of the circular, it would be, you know, the crater of the volcano many millennia ago. And strangely enough, it was freezing day. But if you stood and let your boots just sink into that sand, you could feel the warmth from I suppose it was some kind of a thermal underneath. It was really very, very spooky. But there was an aircraft hangar. There were huge tanks for fuel, for ships to fuel up, and lots of rotting whale boats, whalers' boats. And there were also what were called enormous rendering tanks, which is where the whalers would come in and they'd cut up the whales and they'd put the blubber in these huge tanks and heat them until the product, that when the blubber melted, it gave off the valuable oil, which is used in so many ways. Earlier in the week, we'd had a talk by the expedition leader on the history of whaling, and she also shocked a lot of us by revealing all the everyday products that we're all familiar with, in which whale oil was an ingredient. I mean, lipsticks and Vicks Vapor Rub and many cosmetic products. So I think unwittingly we were all involved in the demise of so many hundreds of thousands of whales. But fortunately, there was a global ban put on hunting certain kinds of whales, and I think now there are a few. I won't mention any names, any countries in particular, but whales are still hunted for their meat. And also penguins they're very fatty little things. So they were also caught by the hundreds of thousands, and their sort of blubbery fat was boiled down to make all these everyday products that we all use. So it was a very sobering time, and huge atmosphere there, and whale bones still on the beach, and those
you can see is that vertebra there, whale vertebra.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah, just lying there, and the wrecks of many of the whalers' boats. I mean, they were made into demons. They were demonized, of course, but must have been an incredibly tough life.
It must have been.
Can't even
And
imagine.
that's a whale's tailbone, isn't it?
No, it isn't actually. It looks like it, but it's just a bit of a boat. I suppose it's a bit of the stern of a whaler's boat. They were all just piled up on the beach there on those black sands. Bitterly cold. Yes.
I was just wondering, when you were talking about the cosmetic products and whale oil, etc., during this education they were giving you, did they share whether or not the manufacturers disclosed that there was the whale oil in the product, or it was just no?
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And I suppose before the 60s, it wasn't required, was it? You
No,
just
it
had
wasn't.
this, yeah, yes,
Yeah, you just accepted that what
yeah,
you had was what you had. Nobody
yes,
asked for
that's right,
experience.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
very, very
and
true.
yeah, and an unbelievable number of whales were slaughtered for that.
Mhm.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Gives me the chills.
And here we have a penguin on a growler, that one of those smaller icebergs.
Wow.
The
So penguins,
penguins,
they swim and they walk.
yes, they swim and they walk, and they're remarkably agile. They eat fish, of course, and he's probably just having a little rest on that. They can pull themselves up with those little flippers with amazing agility.
Do
And
they swim under the water, or they're basically surface animals?
no, they'll swim under the water. That's how they'll catch the fish. And when they're under the water, when they're swimming, they're totally different animals. They're fast and supple and almost uncatchable, except by the leopard seals. Those are their main predators. And this is another beautiful landscape of ice. And it went on a beautiful day. I don't think anything could be more spiritual or uplifting.
Those cloud formations sort of look like something, but I can't picture just what. And by the way,
they do.
Janetta, were they hyenas that we heard in the background?
No, that was from Moyra. That's Moyra's side. That was a tree hyrax.
Oh, sorry.
You had
Yes, you
tree
heard.
hyrax. They sound very prehistoric, and they live in trees, and they're a bit like a guinea pig. They're related to the elephant. Can you believe it? And they're about this big, and they wind up. I would say they sound like they're winding up there. And then they wind down again, and that's what you could hear.
I love it.
Moyra and I are in competition with wild animals. We don't get tree hyraxes here, and she doesn't get hyenas in her garden.
I think hyenas are pretty good. Pretty good, yes.
So this is the last of our slideshow, and I know these
Wow,
two.
gorgeous.
Yeah, that is quite an amazing, absolutely amazing one.
Now, Moyra, we talk a lot about on this platform about sustainability, coexistence, and climate change. Did you see any signs of icebergs melting, or did they share with you the icebergs used to be much bigger? Did you hear anything about that?
No, I didn't see any sign of it, but I know that it's happening, particularly on the big ice shelves where we were right up on the southern peninsula. It's not where the huge ice shelves are. There is one called the Ross Glacier, and it's the way the warmer oceans just undercut them. They undercut them, and gradually they will just carve. That's what it's called when the glacier breaks and drifts out to sea, and they melt. But I mean, these are massive. They're like the skyscrapers of New York. They are just massive. It'll take a while, of course, but it is definitely happening. And if anything, these particular pictures of just the sheer beauty, the raw beauty, but also the fragility of it. It's a continent that is so totally unspoiled and pristine, and it just has to be preserved. It's, you know, there's so much we can learn from it if we don't exploit it.
Well said.
Yeah, yes, it is stunningly beautiful. And
Like nothing
you
I've
know,
ever seen.
yeah,
just
really,
something
really
else. Now, Dr.
incredible.
Jacalyn, Moyra and I have a video that is a synopsis of bits and pieces we've seen. I don't know that this has been just so full on, and do we have a couple of minutes to show it or not?
Sure, let's show it. So we'll take this one down and bring up the other
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that was a lot of work putting that together. You know,
Yeah.
I can't help but think to myself how beautiful it is, and it hasn't been ruined by mankind.
Absolutely. There was no plastic floating in the water. There was no rubbish left behind. Utterly, utterly pristine, but vulnerable.
Hmm.
And yeah. But that was the daily delight, apart from the beauty around, was that there was no trash, no sign of anyone else having been there. It was really very special.
I was going to say, what an inspiration that if we can get our act together here in this world and get back to having an environment like that. Amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
I love the penguins, the way they're all walking together. That was great.
they're just so perfectly adapted to where they live. It's just such a perfect balance. You know, there's no, it's just as it should be, as it always has been. Mm-hmm. And the whales coming back and just perfect. And I didn't show any, there were no pictures because I was just drawing so much, but there were elephant seals, which are just the most extraordinary creatures we saw on our first landing. Just all these wonderful, almost mythical beasts.
It is amazing how the animals are in their environment that they've adapted to, and you're not going to find them in different environments. It's really neat.
Yes, yes, absolutely true. Yeah.
What I love about, we got back from Antarctica and we decided to put this piece of film together. And to me, you were talking about Narnia earlier, and to me, you almost took us into a Narnia book this evening. So it could be The Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yes.
And
yes. How wonderful.
You've really captured the magic beautifully this evening. Thank you, Moyra. It feels like we've been on the journey with you.
Oh well, thank you, Jenetta. You put that show together. I just plied you with images, and you put it all together so beautifully. Lovely.
What a wonderful team the two of you are. And Moyra, I have to say it, as I was watching that, I thought to myself, you know what, this feels like I'm watching major network television about an adventure show. And it really, it's amazing where you've gone and how you captured the essence of it and brought it to us wherever we are in the world. So I thank you for that. And I thank Jenetta for putting that wonderful video together. You did a great job.
Yeah, she did.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, it was for a special great friend as well. We've actually, Dr. Jacalyn, we originally, Moyra chose her music. So she had in the original one for her records, it's got her music, but of course it's all copyrighted. So it had new music put together for this show. And I think it's come out quite well, Moyra, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it has. Yes. No, it was really lovely. And I'm very happy that you felt that you were there with me. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I learned so much and saw things I've never seen before. So thank you.
Exactly. And they're thinking about dreaming about dark and handsome captains as well.
Yes, and Katie wrote, now, ladies, no flirting with the captain. Law, I didn't get to put that. Moyra, any other fabulous experiences you're going to share with us?
Oh, I'm sure I could find some. Yes. I have been very lucky to have seen all these wonderful places. Yes. Well, if you're ready for more.
Definitely ready for more. And I think it's the level of professionalism and the passion that you have for what you're doing, and it really shines through. So please do come back and bring us some more adventures.
Oh, well, wonderful. Well, I'll get together with Jenetta on that one. Netta.
Yeah. We'll collaborate.
Oh, anyway, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn and Netta. That was so lovely to have such enthusiastic.
I feel like I went on an adventure, really. I feel like I left this
Yeah.
green screen and went somewhere. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And also
Right.
thank you to Katie Selfox, Big Boss Lady, for following and engaging with us. We appreciate you. So we're going to sign off now. Our next show is coming up. It's the Mallorca Connection. And I'll just ask the two of you anything that you want to share with our audience before we close out. Moyra, I'll go over to you.
I just want to share the beauty of all the places I've been to, and to, yes, to just say how precious they are, how vulnerable they are, and how much they need our awareness. That's
I love
all.
that. That's beautiful. Thank you. Jenetta, what would you like to leave with our audience?
I think that leaves me with nothing to say. That's a wonderful ending. Thank
All
you,
right.
Moyra.
We're rendered speechless by you, Moyra. Thank you very much. And again, I'm super excited to have you come back and see us. So thank you. And you too. Great friendship, great friends. I love that.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
special.
The best.
All right, we are signing off.
Thank
Stay with
you.
us for the Mallorca Connection with Mr. Roland Friedel and our guest today, Moyra. A big thank you from my heart for being
Thank
here
you.
and taking on this
Thank you.
excursion with you. And Jenetta, thank you every day for everything you do.
Just an
Bye,
honor and
everyone.
pleasure. Bye.
Bye. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.